All right. Hey, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, Eric, thanks so much for joining and helping me out, kind of looking through some of the last couple months of Project Health Vizzes that were submitted. I did this, I think, like the last month or maybe 2 months ago with Zach Bowders, and it was just a nice conversation about giving some feedback for folks and sharing kind of both of our perspectives on these vizzes. I know when I teach a class at Temple, and one of the things students really appreciate is just kind of getting that really close feedback so that they can kind of, either make changes or kind of understand, what we think makes a good viz and why we do what we do as data visualization experts. So yeah. So the two that we have, or the two topics we're doing, September's and October's, and September was COVID or contributing conditions to COVID-related deaths, and then October is Australian breast cancer screening. So we got a bunch to go through. So let me
Forward to
get
it.
going. Yeah, and I know folks know who you are and all in the community, but if you want to introduce yourself, give a
Sure.
little
Of
flavor for who you are and what you do, in case anyone watches who is not already familiar with you, which
course.
probably
My name's
surprising if they are, but
my name's Eric Balash, like Lindsay said. I'm a senior consultant at Lovelytics. I've been working with Tableau for I think around 4 years now. I started when I was a student in college and just fell in love with the tool. From there, just got active in the community and Tableau Public. I'm now a Tableau ambassador. I've been a Tableau featured author. I have one visit of the day. And then this past year, I placed seventh in the Iron Viz competition. So that was pretty exciting for me. But other than that, I love working with Tableau. Outside of work, I teach with Chantilly Jagannath, who's another Tableau Zen master with millennials and data. Just providing students and professionals with the skills to become a hybrid analyst, and just really love giving back and working with Tableau and data visualization as a whole. So really happy to be here today and reviewing these with you, Lindsay.
and what do you have, like a line chart in your wall that almost looks like you've painted some.
Oh yeah, it kind of it kind of looks like
Couldn't help it
that.
connection. Awesome. So all right, so we're gonna get going. Let's see if I can make this work right. All right, let's do this here. Cool. All right, so the first viz we have is by Sadal McCall, and it's actually, he just submitted this recently,
Mhm.
even going back, catching up at peers. But so we have a really nice, just real simple bar chart here that I recall when he had posted it, said that, he was trying to make a really simple, clean viz and try to tell 1 or 2 points instead of 5 to 10. So
Mhm. Yeah. I've gotten to know Sadell a little bit. He's from the DC area, so nice way to represent. But yeah, I remember checking this one out a little bit, and I think this one is definitely pretty simpler looking compared to some of the other ones that he's worked on. So I think he's addressing those 1 to 2 points that he has here by just allowing us to select a condition to see the breakdown, and then just looking at the number of COVID deaths there. So giving us just a few things to look at. Then we could also use the parameter to view by age or the age bracket or by state. So
yeah.
yeah, I think this is pretty simple. And as we've learned, sometimes simple is the best way to do it. We don't need to overcomplicate things. But yeah, I really like this view.
Yeah. First, I mean, I think it's great to have like this one color, and I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, like color's not needed, right? Like there's no reason to have it, or have various colors. But sometimes I see, a lot of visits that just, add a lot of details that maybe aren't not necessarily related to the chart, but it like has a lot of color. And so it's
Mhm.
sometimes refreshing to see someone try like just one color. And the
Mhm.
purple is an interesting color choice. This is definitely a bright visual, but I actually prefer that it's not something like obvious like red, because we're talking about unfortunate deaths.
Yeah.
Uh, so it feels like a little kind of calming in a way for even a topic that is obviously not calming. So
Yeah, I agree. And I like how he uses just like, to bold the color in the title, just to, kind of draw emphasis on some of the questions that he's looking to answer.
Yep.
So by bolding things there. The tooltips look great. I think that's one thing people forget to is update their tooltip. So at least he's taking the time to go through and do that. So I think that looks really nice. Yeah, and I think one of the things that we like to teach is trying to stick to 1 to 2 dominant colors. So here we just have a light background, which is gray, and then using
Yeah.
that dominant color of purple. So yeah, I do like the color. I think the fluorescent purple might be a little bright. I would probably, me personally, might choose a little bit of a darker purple, one that's not
Yeah.
um, as bright. But yeah, I really like how simple this is, and still kind of paints the picture for us.
Yeah. And while not necessarily a part of his viz, I will say one of the things that is also kind of difficult in healthcare data is, especially when we look at like state kind of information, is obviously like a rate per 100,000. And granted, this data set didn't have population in it, but it's always something in healthcare we want to be cognizant cognizant of because obviously states like in this case, like California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Pennsylvania are like probably the top 5 most populated states. So obviously you would expect um,
Hmm.
deaths there to be larger. Now, again, not something that is at all his fault at all. Just pointing out that that does make these kinds of data sets more challenging when you don't
Yeah.
have it, or you have to like bring it in. So I try to bring it in when I can for states because that's pretty easily accessible. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's harder to get at other level of detail in terms of like
Yeah.
perhaps getting all the
Yeah.
county
Yeah.
population or city or
I
something
agree.
like that.
Another thing I wonder is if we could just drop or maybe add some padding to the right side of the drop down. I know I'm not sure how big the largest selection is, but yeah, I guess we can move it over. Or sometimes I like to keep it the length of like the longest value, but other times sometimes I think when they get too wide or they take up the whole space, it can be a little distracting. But
Yeah, no, I agree
just,
with you on that one.
some small things.
Awesome. Let's see if I can get back to. Can't see my stupid screen. There we go. All right, let's go next. So this is Diana O, and so this is I think her first time participating. I haven't seen her name before. So this takes obviously a very different kind of approach than what we just saw from Sadal. So we have
Mhm.
a visualization that has a lot of information that we probably need a little more time to kind of spend looking at it.
Mhm.
So let's see. Okay, so I think what we have here is she gives us some perspective on what comorbidity is, which I think is
Mhm.
great in case people aren't familiar with what that means. And in this data set, the data does have all the deaths by COVID-19 and then like all the contributing or other conditions that individuals had. So it is important to actually remove like the COVID-19 value from the data because all of the other disease types, obviously they're all COVID-19 deaths. So she seems to be looking at then, a certain selection of states where then you can kind of compare them in this, radar chart. Um,
Yeah, so it looks like we're looking at the top 6 states.
yeah.
So
Or
okay.
you can add, I think, and then you can add in
Oh, that's
other
pretty
ones.
creative. Okay.
Yeah. So like I can add in, let's see if it'll load a
It
state
might
and I
just
think
be
it'll.
the top 6 and then just one or.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'll just pick something and see how it works. Yeah, okay. So then if I add in South Carolina, it
Okay.
adds that in.
Gotcha. Neat. That's really creative. I don't know if I've seen something like that before.
Yeah, I could see a lot of practicality for having
Mhm.
some sort of parameter that, is fixed at something, but then allows some level of, customization by the user.
Yeah.
Um, and she does have, let's see what this show bar chart does.
Looks like the use of a show hide container to overlay the section there, so we could look at it
Yeah.
just by a different breakdown, um,
So this
showing.
has those
Okay.
top plus whatever you've added in.
Hmm.
Um, percentage of COVID-19 deaths with the condition. Okay, gotcha. All right, so that's kind of nice because then we're looking at of all the deaths, what percent of them had these different types of illnesses um, as a
Yeah.
comorbid.
And I do see that she has notes about the data on the bottom. So what I might do with that, and instead of having it just overlaid in the center, perhaps add it as like a disclaimer at the bottom. So maybe just adding a little bit more height to the dashboard, or moving things up a little bit, just to put that note at the bottom, just so it's kind of not taking away from the visuals that we have on the screen.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think show hide containers can obviously be very useful for kind of
Hmm.
just tucking away information. Or same, you can do that old trick where you have a sheet that has a shape and then it's in the tooltip. That's another kind of option that also can be used that avoids like a click. But either way, I think both, those are good choices.
Hmm.
Going along the lines of kind of cleaning up things or just tucking things away that maybe aren't like 100% needed at the get-go, right? Like they're kind of that secondary or tertiary step as you're
Hmm.
looking at information. I think here with this average, we have average repeated in this bar chart. And so I tend to not have any kind of text on my average line, particularly in something like this, which is a summary, and I'm going to look at this and just see, like, I think the point is who's above and below this particular average of these states. And so I can see that without obviously having this. And so I would also often like just put it in the subheader and say, reference line is the average
Hmm.
of the selected states or what have you,
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
just to kind of, because I particularly don't like when they kind of, they go over the bar.
Yeah, yep, it's kind of hard to read, and yeah, I,
Yeah.
I agree. So I think just having kind of that little note at the top would be helpful.
Yeah. And, I'm sure, or I'm not sure, but I'm certainly going to guess that, many times people are trying out different chart types. And so this is an interesting kind of use of a radar chart. I think one of the challenges is, as we all know, they can be difficult to interpret. And in this case, because I think the percentages they're pretty all close together, and it makes it definitely difficult to kind of interpret where there might be where one state, is varying differently across all these
Mhm.
comorbidities. The bar chart certainly does that a better job, but
Yeah.
it's kind of neat to have at least the option. At least she's given us both options here. So,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
all right, that's that one. Okay, so this is Purva Swawant, and so this is interesting. I was looking at this right beforehand.
Mhm.
And so we have kind of this highlight table heat map or um, with the marginal histogram. And so I definitely initially kind of like this. It does tell me kind of where certain, um,
Yeah, we're using the stepped color, so she has the legend there, so we know kind of what our groupings are. And across the top, we're just summarizing by the age bracket, and then going down, it's the percent of total that the disease is, right?
yeah, and so I think this is where I was saying there's a little bit of an error because COVID-19, obviously all the deaths are COVID-19. So we have to remove this particular one
Mhm.
to make this accurate. But with
Yep.
that, if she removes the COVID-19 from it, then everything else should be, um, uh, well, let me back up actually. Um, so people can be in each of these different buckets. So this is one of the other challenges with thinking about comorbidities is that someone can die of COVID-19 and also have diabetes and renal failure or whatever. And so it's really not a percent of total because people are counted more than once. What we want to do instead is actually kind of fix that COVID-19 total and say the percent out of everybody, right? So that you're
Mhm.
counting it in each time out of that total COVID-19.
Yep.
Um, Not because the numbers are gonna be different. So that should be the denominator. So I think with just a simple like calc, she could probably fix those percentages. But the concept I really like.
Yeah, yeah.
What are the top conditions, ages? Is there any kind of differences in things? So
Yeah, I like it as well, and I love the choice of color too. I think it really stands out really nicely, and kind of the nice progression from darker to lighter, or less to more. Yeah, I think this is another really simple viz, not overcomplicating things. But yeah, I think if just make the adjustment of removing the COVID-19 and then fixing the denominator on that total, I think this would be a great viz.
Yeah, and a great use of the marginal histogram. I mean,
Hmm.
kind of get all three aspects in one, and it's a really nice compact chart. Um, I would suggest losing at least one decimal place. I tend to tell people, you only need really one. Sometimes
Yeah.
the average person really doesn't need any.
Yeah.
Uh, but even in business, we try to stick it to one.
Hmm.
Nobody really needs this level of detail unless you're talking about things that are less than one.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, I agree as well.
So anytime, any place you can get rid of some additional data or data to ink ratio kind of
Hmm.
stuff, that'd be good. All right, this one. So Prithak, I think. If I said that right. I remember seeing this one, and um, I was really drawn to it initially. So this is a little longer form one that we have. We got
Uh,
some
More of that
some
infographic
brands. Yep,
style.
we got a disclaimer.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. So, okay, so we have by state the top 10, and then we can look at the bottom 10. So that's a nice little probably parameter action here. That's cool.
Mhm.
Full text.
Nice. Yeah, and again, just kind of what we mentioned earlier, using the 1 to 2 dominant colors. So using blue in the back and then and white as the dominant color to pull it off the page. I think it really works well with this. So.
Yeah, a really good job of picking a good color in the background. I think
Mhm.
having like text that's white can be pretty tricky because that white on that background color is so important with how well that white shows up. Even like white on black sometimes can be really tough because the
Yep.
black is so saturated. But this has a really nice, like, little less saturation, more towards like the grayer area and like a grayish blue. And so like I can read this really well.
Yeah.
So I like that. So then we have down here the age. Age is a clear factor. So we just,
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of envision this could be almost like a poster that's printed out and hung on like a wall somewhere. I think it's just a really clean design. Kind of gives you that information, all the disclaimers, and even the symptom or what was at the bottom there, that supporting information. Just a lot of extra context. And then we have the info icon for where our data's coming from. Yeah, I think I really love the color that he used in this, and I think it's a really well thought out visualization.
and one final thing I'll say about this. First, I love that I like these bands at the top. I think those are really effective, but even the order of it, like, is really powerful. Like the death
Hmm.
states like one condition. Like I'm just like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's pretty emotionally like um, meaningful.
Hmm.
The two other things that is great, like he has a date in here, especially with healthcare data and obviously COVID-19 data. We're like living this right now. So I think that's just really important to make sure that folks know when the data is accurate as of,
Hmm.
or when it was taken, because this data obviously is changing. So when we have data that's changing, we want to make sure that we have that date in there, and that's really helpful. And the last thing that I want to say is that he's using a subset of the data, right? Like one of the things that I always kind of experienced early on when I did a lot of, makeover Mondays is I often struggled with feeling like I had to use every like cell in the data set, right? Like,
Yeah.
having to make sure that there was and the filters and I'm checking off like every single box that I'm using all the data to its full like capacity. But I like that he took a simple approach of we're going to just look at volume by states, and in this case, just the age. So actually, while the data was about the comorbidities, he didn't use that portion of it, which is
Hmm.
totally fine.
Hmm.
Um, and so I like when you see people take different kind of slices of the information to tell.
Yeah, yeah, it's pulling out those questions that they're interested in answering, and then using that part of the data to answer that. So kind of
Right.
like that I'll use. He's said that he's always trying to answer 5 to 10 questions, and right here, right, we just focused on 1 to 2. So.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's a good. Just kind of a good point to remember that just 1 to 2.
Hmm.
All right, I think this one's by, yeah, this is by the So let's see here. Yeah, she's got the date in here too. I like
Mhm.
this font. This is
Yeah, this is
nice.
probably
Interesting.
maybe the background created in Figma or something, or
Yeah, it looks nice.
I don't think that's a typical Tableau font.
No, right? So over
So,
here we have COVID-19 deaths due by deaths by. So here we have the per 100,000, which is great. So she brought in, took the extra step and did bring in population data.
mhm.
Um, so I love that. As we said earlier, like in healthcare, that's really often very important, particularly with disease rates and things of that nature. And so very nice tooltip too.
Yeah. Then I think she says we can click on a state to filter the age groups and conditions in the charts below.
Oh, okay.
That seems like everything has, is interactive. So we can click on that and looks like it'll update the charts down below based off of our selection. So
Gotcha. So if I put eight.
let's see.
Oh, yeah, I
There
saw it.
we go.
Oh, yeah.
I might I might want to see if it's possible to, using like a parameter or something, when I make a selection to have the state name
Right.
appear, maybe like after, by age group or something, it, has like a little hyphen in the state or something like that, just so I, in case if I forgot that I clicked up top or something
Yeah.
like
Some
that.
kind of dynamic title or something to show what I've selected. Right. I agree. Because, or even having it in the tooltip too would help. Just so I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm still looking at
Yep.
Pennsylvania or what have you. But it's a nice interactivity. I like when people use maps for showing the data, not just like picking a state. So here we have both things where we're looking at it and then kind of
Mhm.
drilling down to explore like a particular state across the different conditions.
Mhm.
Um, and the use of the hex map is great. I mean, obviously they're a very fantastic chart for looking at geography when there's such variance in population. So
Yep,
and
I
then we
agree.
have this little serial number.
Oh, nice. Have some animations built into there.
Yeah.
Um, I do like, I think at the bottom, she also has, how we can, if we want to read further, how we can protect ourselves and others by clicking on the bottom right. I don't know if it'll be a pop. Yeah, it looks like it'll take us out to another site that
Website.
we can kind of reference. um,
Yeah, the CBC.
awesome.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
I always like when, depending on what the data set is, but when there's just more information, the author kind of leads us to that and where we can find it.
Oh, this even has some like we got a highlight action here too.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think sometimes I know personally when I'm building visualizations, that's some of the highlight actions and filter actions are things I forget about a lot of the time. But if you're able to add those in, I think it can really add some nice context to your dashboard and just make it a little bit more interactive.
Yeah,
I really
definitely.
like this one.
No, this is great. And the other thing I'll say, I mean, I've seen a lot of people do this kind of wrapping the viz with like this line, kind of giving it this like thick this margin. So it's just really clean. I like kind of the enclosure of the whole visualization, and then this prominent title. And the other thing that I don't see as often is people using kind of these just regular old radial buttons
Yeah,
for either parameters or filters. And I think it's a good thing to remember when you have just a handful of items, like two or three. This is actually way easier for an end user to just see what the selections are and select versus dropping down and then selecting.
yeah,
So it's actually pretty clean, when you have the room and the space for it. And she did it just in a really nice way. Like it just
yeah,
fits
absolutely.
really well. Like it doesn't feel like it's like a filter or parameter or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, just kind of flows with the whole use of the viz. So
Hmm.
I like that. Yeah, it's a good job. And interesting, good choice of colors. Like I don't
Hmm.
know if I'd ever kind of have found these colors together, but it looks good.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I'm always interested when
As
people
well.
find good color
Yeah.
combinations. All right. Um, so Vignesh did deaths due to corona in the United States. And here we have,
Full deaths. So we have the age group that is most affected by, and then 4 out of 50 states highly affected. So just
okay,
some of
that
our
includes
KPIs there.
Yeah, high, big ones.
Another hex max. I like the use of the annotations. I think that's another feature that sometimes we forget that we can use in Tableau, is using just the annotations to,
Yeah.
kind of pull out some points that we want to make. And we have the Vision tooltip that breaks it down when we highlight. So that's another really great feature there. So I think the tooltips, really look good as well.
Yeah, I would make sure the Vision tooltip is not sorted in order, because when we're looking at age should be in the order that age is. Obviously I know why someone might select to do that, but it makes it a little challenging
Mhm.
when we're looking at age across.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
usually want to see it in order, just like if we were to use word like uh, date, or years. You wouldn't want to resort years, because then people get a little confused about seeing kind of what the trending is. So
yeah.
that would be just
Yep,
one minor
agree.
suggestion there.
Looks like we have an arrow in the bottom right. I don't know, does that take us to another dashboard?
Let's see. Look at that.
Okay, so kind of using the navigation objects to almost create like a story point within Tableau. So now we have
Oh, woo, look at that.
that. Okay, so now we're just looking at the. I see the COVID-19 is in there.
Right.
So,
You probably want to take that out. Yep.
mhm. But yeah, just looking at our other conditions and the total count, and then we have the ability to filter by the age group as well.
Yeah, nice animations going on in
Mhm.
here. They shift
What
around.
are some of the other options in the drop down? I think I saw some age group and then
They're all ages. These are
colleges and not
all
state. Okay,
the
yeah,
hmm
gotcha, gotcha. And using tooltips look nice. So just adding some text in there, then also using the animations to kind of give us that nice flow in between our selections.
Oh, and then there's one more. Awesome. Precautions you can take to stop the spread. Okay, very good. And then it gives us this last final thing. Oh, I remember him saying that there was some kind of video or a GIF that would populate there that wasn't
Okay,
for some
maybe
reason.
like
Yeah.
proper hand washing or something like that. But
Yeah.
all right, so yeah, definitely using a lot of different features that Tableau has. So the navigation options, Vision tooltip, animations, annotations. So
Yeah.
really nice use of kind of all the features of Tableau that we can use. But yeah, I think this is pretty neat. It kind of tells the story as we're able to click through.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm obviously I almost missed this. I think part of it is because it's the same color as the background. I mean, it's a nice button. I like how it's designed. I just was so
Uh,
far down there. I almost missed it. I mean, once you get through
uh,
it, once you see it, then
yeah.
this totally makes sense because you'll see that. But yeah, that I don't know if just having it not be the same color as the background might help it stand out a little more,
Hmm.
or even just like moving it up a little bit might help.
Hmm.
Make sure that
Yeah.
someone's gonna catch it. I don't know how I feel about the background pattern. It feels like a wallpaper. Um,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah, I
tend to
agree as
say,
well.
if your viz can stand on its own without, like, if you can keep removing things, remove as much as you can until it's required. And so in this case, a dark background might still be really helpful because he does have like this contrast. If you go white
Mhm.
background, obviously it would be fine too. But the pattern just kind of got me a little distracted and felt a little
Yeah, I think so as well. So maybe just a flat, black background or an off black or something like that. I think would be fine. So, um,
but yeah, a lot of great like features in it too.
mhm. Yeah, I agree.
Like the bands.
I'm actually gonna just close my door here really quick. Oh, all
All right, so this
right.
is John. And so
Thanks.
I'll reload. Okay, let's see here.
Select a state to filter the dashboard. I love the yellow halo that pops up. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's got to be some other highlight action where, like, when we select this, you notice how everything else doesn't get deselected.
Hmm.
So I know that there's some techniques you can do with kind of these actions so it doesn't only select the one thing and not select everything else. You know how that gets that faded
Yeah,
out.
I think
It's
it's
nice.
like kind of like an if-then statement. So if something is selected, then color, else no color, and something like
Yeah,
that.
it's just
I
it,
know. I
Um,
might, I might move. I don't know. I'm thinking about like just how the map is first. Part of me kind of would want to see, like if I'm looking at the map and I'm making a selection, I might want to see the numbers from the bottom, like the KP, the bands there, maybe on the top. But then I guess so. So our selection filters everything. Okay, actually, no, I think that's fine. I really like that tree map. Sometimes I think tree maps can be like difficult. I don't for some reason this one like formats really nicely, and I
yeah,
think the colors used look really good too.
right. So we have respiratory diseases again. I think we just need to get rid of the COVID-19, but otherwise, yeah, these others,
Hmm.
they break out. Some of these have multiple ones that break out into each other.
Hmm.
Diabetes.
Yeah, I like the Senki is nice and clean as well. And again, just sticking to 1 to 2 dominant colors. So kind of have the gray as our lighter color, and then our purple is the standout dominant color. Um, but
Yeah.
I think this looks really nice.
Yeah, I think one suggestion for John would be to kind of make sure that this your hex map is kind of in the right size. So right now it's a little elongated,
Mhm.
um, which kind of distorts the way the United States kind of looks with the text map. And the hexes, they're not. They need to be a little closer together so that these spaces kind of all fit a little nicer. So I think just even adding some padding on both sides could probably bring it into the center.
Yeah, and I think that would allow them to increase the size of the shape to kind of get the borders a little bit closer.
Yeah, or kind of to your suggestion. I mean, even these two bands, if you put those on the side or maybe on the right side, that would allow the map to kind of be the right size for the United States
Hmm.
or the hexes. And you could see it right next to each other,
Hmm.
potentially. Um,
Yeah. I do love how, when a selection is made that it updates the title and the subtitle. So, as I scroll down, if I forget that I clicked on Maryland, it still, has it labeled for me. So I think that's always really helpful.
yeah, and I don't really understand the Sankey. Again, I think people like to try out things, so I have no problem with people exploring different charts. But really, this is just a bar chart. I mean, we're seeing the size of things, but usually for a Sankey, I look at the flow from you know
Yeah. From
a
X to
couple items and how they flow to another couple items. So this is
Yeah.
everything, and it's just broken out. So really, we're using all this space kind of strangely, where uh, you
Yeah,
know.
I think just a simple bar chart might do. And in this maybe, column chart, since we're talking about age group, going from the lowest age. So I think using the same color and just having, maybe the high the value with the most, the darker purple and everything else is, a light gray or a lighter purple, I think would answer the same question.
Right, right. Yeah, awesome.
And
Okay.
he does have all the dates in there as well. So I think that's helpful of when the data
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think this is the last one for the COVID-19 data. And so this is by Siddharth. And so we have here kind of this like, a trellis chart, essentially. We kind of had
Yeah.
all these different sections of the different conditions. And what we have is the total deaths for that condition and then which state had the most and then the actual
Huh.
value. So that's
It's really interesting.
kind of nice. Just summary like information, like looking at all of them and kind of looking through as to which states have the most. Now, again, this is where I'd probably say you're better off with a rate per 100,000, so you can really see, because obviously here we have Texas, California, and Florida
Hmm.
are almost primarily all of them except for New Jersey as like the top, which obviously they're the most populated states. So
Hmm.
that would just be one suggestion to bring in that population data and then kind of have this. But I like the concept.
Yeah. Are there any actions like if we click on one of the does it kind of filter? Oh, let it reload.
It does.
Okay, cool.
So let's see, what is this? So these are the
Yeah,
top 10 states.
I find the bump chart to be a little confusing.
So it's the top 10 states, and just if they're still the top 10 by the age group. So I guess if I did like Yeah, you have all the age groups. It's definitely difficult to interpret.
Yeah, I think what I might want to see is if I'm selecting, a condition from the left side, I might just want to see just like a bar chart of the rank of states, so maybe the top 10, and just right, if we are saying that the most deaths is Florida, we should see, or in this instance Texas, we should see that at top, and then maybe just the next nine after that. I'm not sure if we need to see it like the different. I don't know. I find it a little. I'm not sure if I can get the right interpretation of it.
Yeah, I mean, right. I guess the point I think is trying to interpret, like, is this state that, so if it's highest for diabetes, is it highest, how does that play out by all the different age groups? So in this case, like Florida is highest for diabetes. For some of the older age groups, we'll see, it's not
Ah,
for
okay.
the younger years. The challenge becomes, right, like actually flowing through these. And some of it I think is the color is all very close. So it's very difficult. Like these look all the same color, frankly. So I
Yeah.
think it's hard to follow one point to another.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so
Hmm.
yeah.
Is there and then in the top right, is there another option to so we can we're looking at the state-wise ranking of conditions, or we can look at the condition-wise ranking of states.
Maybe. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So this is health conditions during COVID-19. Yes, we have the same.
Okay, so kind of just a different take on it.
I'm assuming this is,
So we're going the age groups from left to right again, looking at the different. Okay, so here we're looking at the different conditions
I
and
think,
their.
all for one state.
Mhm.
I think this is
And then it looks
Florida.
like we can select a different state from the bottom.
We can.
So yeah, I think some of the questions that Siddhartha's trying to answer here is good, but I think there might just be kind of an overflow of information and trying to fit a little bit too much into one section. So I like the trellis chart that we looked at, and how it kind of gives me that metadata of here's all your different conditions, here's kind of the state that's the highest, and I
Mhm.
think just kind of having like that was on the left side, and then on the right side, if we had a panel that was just okay, here's the top 10 states, and here's a breakdown of the how that condition goes by the different age groups. We could have quite a few different action filters built in where we can select a state
Right.
from the list, and that will update our age range. um so but yeah, I think everything that trying to be answered here is definitely being done. I think some of it can just be a little bit confusing to follow with that bump chart.
Yeah. And I think this goes to kind of what I was saying, where it's tough when you try to interpret everything. Like that's really what this is, right? It's the age, it's the condition, and we have the state in here. So this is like the full data set, and kind of
Yeah.
trying to analyze that. And it's not that it can't be done, but it's definitely takes a lot of thought and consideration about how to best do that. And sometimes it
Mhm.
does mean doing it in multiple charts
Mhm.
versus this is a lot all in one,
Yeah.
with a lot of interactivity. So maybe having a couple different charts to get at conditions by age, by
Mhm.
state.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Cool. But I do like at least that there's two different pages that have all this information. So recognizing it's not all going to fit on one page,
Hmm.
and in an effort to not maybe make something exceptionally long, we've just had two different views. So that's,
Yeah.
I think, a good use of that technique. Uh,
Hmm.
all right, cool. So then we have a few from, so switching gears over to October's, which was sort of also a little COVID-19 related. So it was Australian breast cancer screening trends. And what they did is they looked at January through June.
Okay.
They had 2018, 19, and 20 data just for those first 6 months to show kind of, because that at the time, this data was only through June. So it had the impact of how COVID-19 compared to 2020's COVID-19 pandemic compared to those same months in prior years, and how it impacted like a significant decrease in breast cancer screening. So this is Josh Tapley's um, viz, it's looking at the 2020 versus 2018 numbers. Let's see if we
Mhm.
can. Yeah. So
Yeah, I also like the design of this one. I think it's kind of like more infographic-y, where I could see this on like a little, almost like postcard handout type of thing, or something that's like sitting in a doctor's office. But yeah,
exactly.
I like the his comparison on the 2018 versus 2020 chart, and then just his summary of information on the left.
Yeah, some great use of kind of some of the Gestalt principles that I particularly like, with kind of enclosure. Like we have these two bands that are
Hmm.
enclosed in these boxes. They look the same. They have very clear, formatting the same way, but like they're contained right here. And same with kind of these backgrounds I see a lot in some vizzes, having kind of a
Hmm.
angle behind some important points that draw it out. So your
Yeah.
eye is drawn to these, to
Yeah,
read
using
the picture
the
back.
color and font for emphasis. I think it's.
Yeah.
I mean, that just reading that's a really interesting point. 2020 was supposed to have 5 more % screenings than the same cohort in 2018, but because of COVID, it's 46% lower, which is just
Yeah,
really drastic change.
exactly. Um, and then with one simple chart, and I love barbell charts. This is like a different take on them that I see. But either way, whatever we want to call this one instead, I, I just find them very effective when you're comparing like two different time points.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that gap or how much different they are. Both I like that you see
Hmm.
both raw values of along the scale and then the distance between them. So pretty close. We were on target. And obviously as lockdown went down,
Hmm.
um, there was a bigger gap.
Yeah.
Um, so really nice. Um, and it's one of those business that is like it's also very small, and
Hmm.
I don't see a lot of people often constrain themselves to maybe this is like 400 by 600 pixels or something. It's pretty tiny.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, it's as big as it needs to be, but usually I see bigger versus small. So it's just kind of interesting. It makes me want to try like a super small
Yeah.
postcard like this. You like
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it.
Postcard size.
Yeah, it'd be a good little challenge. Um, but yeah, really nice one by Josh. And then we've got Sun Kalp, who also had took on a kind of pink themed breast cancer viz. And so um, okay, so okay, down here we have, so in the data set we have all the different territories in Australia as well, which obviously we saw in Josh's does like the full Australia. There wasn't
Mhm.
interactivity changing, but there was this other level of detail for each of the territories. So it looks like this one has.
So similar to the bullet chart. Yeah, we have the a bullet chart here again, comparing 2018 to, or sorry, the bullet chart versus the barbell chart.
Right.
Very similar. Just comparing 2018 to 2020, and then we have the filter option there with being able to select the different territories.
Yeah. So what I think, yes, this goes to all. Um,
What I might consider is maybe adding, maybe changing the territory names, or if we want to use the map feature, we can. But if not, we have all that space in the banner on the left, below the title. We could always add the names there, and then as we make a selection, now we at least have the two charts that are showing our visualization to the right of that. So we could kind of have a, kind of like a maybe
yeah.
a line that separates them, and then our options to make a selection.
Yeah, and that's a good idea. I also think this is kind of a place where this particular map type feature isn't really needed. The map itself isn't providing me anything. Like I don't need to know the shape of the territory, right? And so, and obviously not living in Australia, I actually probably couldn't place all of these. Like, it, I probably couldn't put them together in a puzzle. I'm sorry, that's terrible, but I probably couldn't. So, I just don't know that it's adding a value where it is taking up space. And, either a simple drop down filter, or even as we
Mhm.
talked, like having a radial selection, like there's a lot, but there's a lot of space here. Like we could put all 8 and just click
Mhm.
one and it change.
Yeah, or move all the names to the top and just bring up the bottom of the viz a little bit too.
Yeah,
So that way we can kind of
right.
see it all on one.
Yep. Or you could do this like you could have even like little custom shaped buttons and you could just
Mhm,
select which one. I just not sure that the map adding the map is providing any value
mhm.
when it's not all together. Like these are just the shapes of the territories, I guess
Yep,
is the point.
I agree.
So I think if you're going to use the map, then either have them where they are. Um, and then obviously, this is the first then line chart that we've seen, but I think still also a very effective. So three different types of charts just to show this trending over time, which is interesting to show the
Mhm,
different varieties of what you could do with line chart,
mhm,
bullet, and the barbell, and all showing them kind of like slightly differently in terms of how they end up being interpreted. Um, so
yeah.
now, one thing I'll say is right now this does look like it's at 0. So while line charts don't have to start at 0, I do
Mhm,
get a little cautionary with like enhancing this, dramatically enhancing this spread,
mhm,
unless that really is. I mean, I know maybe it is 0 down there. It's really hard
mhm.
to tell. It's really low, and
Yeah.
I know this is really high, so it could be now that I'm looking at it. But I think without like an axis, I'm questioning it. I think that's the problem.
Mhm,
There's not an axis to show me that it starts at 0. So this, for all we know, could start at 2,000.
mhm. Yeah.
It's a little tough to tell. I think if I pick another one, maybe I'll know. Yeah, I think I would just add the axes lines back in.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, they're definitely not there at all. A little faint, but otherwise, the other thing that I don't. So up here we have the colors that are indicating 2018 to 2020. As I get down here, I lose that reference. So I
mhm,
probably would suggest putting something else that shows that the dark pink is 2020.
mhm,
People's attention span is pretty small. So in 8 seconds, I might have forgotten what color was what.
mhm.
Um, that's the only other thing, just because of like scrolling on a
Yep.
computer. You might want to keep the legend close to this one too.
Mhm.
You could
Yeah.
probably just do it in this text and have in 2020 be like the dark pink, and that would at least be enough for me to know, oh yeah, dark
Yeah.
pink 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that.
A great suggestion.
All right. See Laxmi. So another with kind of that side panel.
I think we could definitely bring up. I don't know if this dashboard needs to be as tall as it is. I think right, if we're just
Okay.
visualizing the line chart, we could probably bring this up, and that way we don't have to scroll down to see the bottom. Maybe just almost like Josh's size. We can keep
Yeah.
it like in like that postcard size, because I think all the information that's here. I think it could fit within a smaller screen. But yeah, they have the labels there for the screening tests in 2018 and 2020. We could probably get rid of screening tests both and just say 2018 and 2020, because I think we have that in our title there.
Yep.
But yeah, I like all the supportive, kind of information on the side, just giving us a little bit more information about kind of what we're looking at. And but yeah, I think if we just kind of bring up the bottom a little bit, just to kind of make it all fit on one screen, I think that would work.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think this is another one. It would be interesting to see it on a smaller scale. It doesn't have to be so big. And I think it is important to be cautious. Um, you do want to have like your charts have enough space and breathing room, right? Like we do want that for our charts.
Hmm.
But I think the way this line chart works, like, yeah, you're right. Like it could probably be a quarter of the size and still have the same, like nothing is going to be lost or squished, just due to the nature of the way the data is looking. It looks good.
Yeah.
And we have a lot, and I like white space. So nobody should take this as, I don't want white space here, but this text is very small and we have like very large gaps that feel a little inconsistent, I guess. Like I'm not sure why there's such a huge gap between all these different parts. So I think you can make a smaller viz and all this stuff will still fit. You might even be able to make the text slightly larger. This is probably like 8 or 9 point. It feels a
Hmm.
little tiny.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think we could probably drop a blank or add some padding next to our state territory drop down. I
yeah,
don't know. I don't think we need to have the drop down span the whole width
so
of the
long.
dash.
Yeah.
Definitely move it over a little bit.
Yeah, and so this is where I was saying I think even the other one, like just a simple drop down for this particular type of chart, I think is going to do
Yeah.
probably just fine when you're looking at one at a time. But yeah, I like that. Looks good. And we got some click for more info that goes to an external site. So which is also helpful for these visits. Let's see, Mike.
Oh, wow.
So let's see. Cancer screening, 28. Okay. Ah, gotcha.
Okay, so we have. So I think I'm trying to understand the reference lines.
So this was a recent, so JR, I'm not gonna say his last name right.
Ah, I know who you're talking about.
um, recently had done a couple of really great vises that use this technique, this kind of secondary like difference kind of line indicator, and I think Yvette had also done this. And so he had written a blog post, our guest blog post on my blog, how to do this. So this was a more recent thing that I've seen that I like. So the point is to be able to actually, it's kind of like a combination between like this bar chart and a barbell, where you're getting that difference in a value, both in like, so you can actually like really see
Okay.
the difference between bars, not just the height
Gotcha.
of them.
Okay.
And then in this case, we have like the percent change, and
Okay. So if I'm looking at 2020 from April to May, the skinny bar is saying that it increased 52.4%.
right from April to May. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Really interesting. Yeah, and I like how we have the option to view all years or just the comparison of, I think it was 2018 to 2020 using the
So I
percent.
think so what this is helpful with is from like a large perspective, I can kind of quickly see where there were drops
Yeah.
more easily than actually looking and be like, okay, that one went down and this one went down. Like I can just see that quickly by color. So it's a really good
Yeah.
use of like that color drawing my attention to it.
Hmm.
I think we need to lose at least a decimal place, if not both, because
Yeah.
there's
I
a little
think we could
more
just have
text going on here.
decimal. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm having a hard time with the background and the color. Like I guess the two grays are very close to each other.
Hmm.
And even like the text, I don't know what it is, but they seem to kind of drowned out. So I almost would either just make the whole background lighter or just white
Hmm.
so that it stands out just a little more.
Also, I'm looking at the last percentage from May to June. Something about that number doesn't seem right to
Right.
me. 38.
Yeah, it's more like 100.
Yeah. But yeah, I do like that. The feature there of just showing the difference, and then this one allows us to. Okay, so 2018 is on top, and it's showing the change by 2018, and then 2020 is below, and it's showing us the change. Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, this one's I'm not exactly sure what we're comparing. Like I think oh, I see. It's yeah, they're both separate, which is a little strange. So we're just looking at 18 compared each month, right? So we went up 24% from April to May and then down. But right, like this is underneath it, which I think is what's just confusing because
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
mirror
I think
image.
yeah.
But I think what we want to see is the actual. I would like to see the comparison of January 2018 to January 2020.
Yeah.
And in that case, this could be easily accomplished with that barbell chart because it gives us both that difference, which is what these bars are kind of doing, as well as the actual values.
Hmm.
So I think that's the type of chart I would use for this
Yeah.
comparison instead. It's just gonna be a little more clear and cleaner.
Hmm. Yep. I agree.
You could always add in that percent like into a tooltip or something. Or all right, this is Quentin. So we've got another. Oops, this little thing. There's a logo line chart.
Yeah, I think this is kind of what we were mentioning on the other one. It fits within our view within our
Yep.
screen. I might add maybe just a little bit more room on the left, the impact, or maybe increase the like. I think if we make that section a little bit wider and maybe increase the padding so it's not just like right on the edge, I think on the left side, I think that would look pretty nice. And then
Great.
I might add just the 3-letter abbreviations to our line chart for the months instead of just having one letter. I don't know, for some reason that just it resonates better with me when I see like the
Yeah,
first 3 um,
great.
but yeah, I think this is a very simple one. I like the way that it's set up. Um, so I think, like we mentioned, kind of similar to the other ones, and I like that this one fits within, the view that I'm looking at.
Right, and we have the label of, like, the min and max, it looks like,
Hmm.
um, here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think something, as we saw in some of the others, it might be helpful to kind of draw attention into some of this text, on some key points, whether it be, like,
Hmm.
bolding or some colors. Um, I like when I see that, it helps, like, if someone only has 5 seconds, they know where to make sure they get the most important information.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah,
might be something to add to that. And then I agree 100% with the padding. I love padding. Once I added that to Tableau, it's like the best
yeah,
thing ever that you could kind of change
mhm,
all the spacing of your object.
yeah.
So,
You don't need to drop a bunch of blanks in there.
right, exactly. But yeah, nice simple viz. We at least have a tooltip up. I think
Mhm.
with simple vizzes, sometimes you can even though in this case we're only looking at kind of like these 12 data points for this is for all Australia. These are the types of visits that I sometimes would add in some just other like information. Like here, I might do like a percent change in the tooltip, something
Mhm.
else to kind of help the analysis of like what's really significant here.
Yeah. Or maybe
You
just adding the year into the tooltip again. So, as I move my mouse around, as some of the lines get closer to each other, just a reminder of what year I'm looking at.
exactly. Yeah, but really nice.
Mhm.
And then let's see, that one's mine. You can comment on mine if you want. I'll skip it for now.
It's okay.
It's an all right biz. So this is Kimley's, and she got a visit today for this one.
Oh, great. I
So
love I know we were just talking about padding, all the padding around the outside,
nice
as,
margin.
yeah, it looks great. Um, Yeah, this is really yeah, this is really cool. Okay, so taking our barbell graph and just, breaking it out, by our different territories that we have. The tooltip looks great. Yeah, this is a really, really sharp visualization. I really like it because I don't think we've seen this level of detail yet. We've seen it
Right.
as a total, and I think there was one where we were able to filter, but yeah, just looking at some of the territories, right? Zero screenings,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
it's really
It's
impactful.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, this is the first, kind of trellis that we've seen where you have like all the information in one space, and it's a we kind of talked along the way for the other visits too. Sometimes that's very challenging, and so there's only certain chart types that like work well, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's finding that. And so this works well with showing we get the trend, but we can also see that like that gap, that difference, and then we have
Yeah.
all of the territories here, so we can really see the full picture.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
yeah, she doesn't have like Australia by itself. Like this is just a territory type view,
Mhm.
um, but you still get.
Mhm.
And, one of the things that is difficult with kind of these trellis charts is you have like one axis, and she obviously has both of them. So it
Yeah.
does make it more difficult to kind of see what happened for these smaller territories, and that's one of the downsides of it is you can't like they're
Yeah,
all on the
yeah,
same.
and I think at least the way that she did it, it looks like she has it sorted where the territory with the greatest
Yeah,
population, like it's going from left to right on the top. So at least it kind of it works for the section that it's in. But yeah, you're right. As we get to some of those smaller ones, it can be a little bit more difficult to see the changes in between.
because the change might be just as dramatic. It's just they're smaller.
Yeah, yeah.
So just something to be cautious of with
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, and I like the call out in the title there, so we know 2020 and 2018.
Yep,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
And an interesting way to have the title kind of like on the right instead. I often see it on the
Uh-huh.
left.
Yeah.
Um, but because it is a nice weight and size, you look there first, even though it's on the right. So that works,
Mhm.
which always, people should make sure, we're drawn to large objects, large text. So
Mhm.
even though it's on the right, we'll see it. So I
Yeah.
think that's just an interesting, way to do it. And yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, I really like this one. Congrats on the visit of the day. Can't wait.
yeah. And I do like her tooltips a lot. Like putting the little
Yeah.
dots in the middle. It's a really nice little touch.
Yeah.
It's really clean. I'm a big fan of tooltips. And then we have Shivam, uh, who also did kind of a trellis chart, but in this case,
To the
did
line.
the lines instead. So
Yep. And again, we're seeing the same, how it's sorted from population
yeah,
on the top, so we can see that variability. But as we get to the smaller ones, it's a little bit harder to see. But um, I think it still works. So I mean, I guess there's always kind of a drawback with whatever chart type you pick. But
exactly. Let's see, why does it matter?
uh,
Let it load.
uh,
Ah, there we go. We got
okay,
a pop up of information that's really helpful.
nice.
Yeah, and even more information. Cool. Yeah, I mean, again, oh, what's this? Another little information button, a very tiny one. I'm not sure. I think it's just about the around the COVID-19 part about the lockdown. So
Okay. Yeah, it might. If there's one maybe that we could add into like the text below, like the subtitle, that might be helpful.
yeah, I think this one could be. I mean, it's relevant information as to kind of like why we're looking at this data anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it could go right after the first sentence there.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's enough like room. I
yeah,
think that you could probably have that in there. Yeah, and I might move this like information like a little up
yeah,
high.
maybe a little bit
Not quite
smaller.
aligned, so
Yeah,
and that throws me off a little bit. But
yeah.
um, but the colors are nice. I mean, I can include. I like how the 2020 is the one that's like a brighter color,
Hmm.
as it's like you know, the one that we're looking at has changed to 2018. So I think that's nice.
Hmm.
And we do have
Yeah.
your letter
I
months.
think we might want to move. This is just like a small little cosmetic thing, but it looks like on the legend, the 2020 is kind of overlapping on this. I might just move that to the right a little bit if they're
Yeah,
like floating or something.
it
But
looks like it's probably the shape that was
mhm,
done in as part of the background image. Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, it would look as well. Here's yeah, good. Subtitle, helpful
Mhm.
information, good tooltips. March 2020. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
stands out. We can look at mine real quick.
Oh.
The only reason, so when I did it, I did a trellis chart too, but I didn't
Ah,
do any chart in it. So instead, just kind of having this a summary of the different territories, how
yeah,
many screening,
this
the
is really
2020
cool.
screening, and the change from 2018. And so I instead then put a vision tooltip for each one. So that was how I was trying to get around the whole
Mm-hmm.
having all the information, still having the trend,
Yeah.
but I didn't have to deal with that access issue. I just
I love this. This is really cool. Again, this is like something that you might see like posted and like on a cork board or something like that. It's really has like a nice infographic, look to it. But I love the interactivity with, I can see, high level the screenings, how just the percent comparison versus 2018 and 2019, just in the trellis chart there. And then, I can look at that trend over time by hovering. And like you said, I think it kind of gets around some of that skewness that we saw, as we use the trellis chart and, it's the same legend. We're here using the Vision tooltip. I think, it's going to update based off of what we're filtering for. So
exactly right. So you have all that
yeah.
changing. And the other thing is, because one of the things about business tooltips is right, you can't then interact with that. So in order
Mhm.
to get around it, I put in that title section like the actual numbers
Yeah.
for the 3 years of this time
Yeah.
frame, so
Right.
that you have some comparison of the size overall. Like 2018 and 19 were very similar here, which you can see
Hmm.
in the chart, but now you have the number and then the dramatic difference in this total for
Yeah.
2020.
And I love the reference line that indicates the lockdown as well. So
Yeah. And the other thing that I did is, so this is approximate number of Australian women who did not receive their breast cancer screening. So what I was trying to get at is that something that wasn't actually in the data, but it's about like, how many women missed out on this, and that's like the significant part, right? They weren't screened, so there's that potential that someone was delayed in getting finding out that they have breast cancer, which
Yeah.
obviously reduces your chance for survival. Like you want
Yeah.
to catch it early. So
Hmm.
I kind of looked at the average screenings from 2018-19 compared to 2020 and made that assumption, if we were on target and we're going to be about the same, this is how many less people
Yeah.
screen. So that's where I was trying to get some other, just a different analysis, different take on trying to understand this
Yeah.
information. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's really interesting. I really like it. Nicely done. Did you do the background in PowerPoint or Figma or Adobe
yeah,
Illustrator?
I did it in Illustrator, I think this time.
Nice.
That's what I was trying to play around with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, really really nicely done.
cool. And that was all of them. Yeah, awesome. We got through all of them. And we'll stop sharing my screen too. I don't look at
Go Steelers.
my. Yeah. That was great. There were some really good kind of tips and thoughts about
Mhm.
the visualizations that people submitted. Definitely some themes
Mhm.
going on. After doing that, I think, like I said, I think I'm going to challenge myself to do a postcard viz.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for me, it's definitely it's definitely doing more project health is, but then trying to keep things simple because I too, when whether it's Makeover Monday or whatever it is, it's trying to answer so many questions at once. But like we saw today, I
Yeah,
think a lot of the ones we looked at were just answering one or two questions, and it was taking a subset of that data and really just focusing on some of the smaller details that affect the overall picture. So
yeah.
that's one of my takeaways is just really focusing on here's one or two questions I want to answer and here's the best chart type to do that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think as we said from the beginning with Sidal, it's like keeping it simple and really making sure that you're doing a really good job at answering those one or two questions, right? You don't want to do a half-assed job at answering 10 questions, right? We want to
Mhm.
really make sure that our visualizations are clear and effective for the few questions that we want our user to like really come away with and understand. And the other couple of things, just using really good use of directing attention, whether it's enclosing a band in a different color or a shape. We saw a lot of that, or highlighting text, either bolding it or the color, anything to make sure that people are seeing exactly what you want them to see like, right away, so they don't miss it. Because there were a couple that we saw that I remember were kind of like either missing an action, missing a
Mhm.
filter, or I missed it, meaning
Yeah.
because of I wasn't drawn to it visually. So I think that's another takeaway for me to consider too, making sure to get those. But awesome. Well, thanks so much, Eric, for doing that with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I was excited to be a part of it and go through provide some feedback, so thank you.
Yeah. Well, you got good feedback, and you can tell. I know you work hard with all the training and teaching so many other folks with like millennials and data. So
Mhm.
you got a good eye for
Well, thank you.
helping
Yeah.
folks out. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah,
Yeah,
talk
you
soon.
too. Yeah, best of luck in 2021 with another year of Project Health Viz.
Yes, so I should say, I'll mention it now then. For those who haven't heard, I have a blog post about the changes with Project Health Biz this year. I'm teaming up with Sean Miller, who's a longtime healthcare, works in the healthcare industry at Cerner, and I've structured it a little differently. It's still 12 projects a year, except for now they're going to fall into 6 categories. So 2 months out of the year will fall into each one. So it'll be a little more organized in terms of the types of data sets that we'll put out. And we are also going to do kind of sort of like this that Eric and I are doing, with kind of a discussion about the vises, but more on the global perspective, sort of like how we're kind of summing up some of the information and helping provide some good, clear, best practices and things that people can take away and use based
Hmm.
on, what we've seen submitted. And yeah, and then we're gonna probably try to add in a little bit of challenges, to them that people can't, can choose to do or not. So just might be some type of, you can only use one color, or try to, include a map, or
Mhm.
make it a postcard size, right?
Yeah.
Something like that that might just make it a little interesting to see if
Yeah.
people want an additional challenge. So yeah,
Yeah.
look forward to it. I look forward to your participation if you have
Yes.
time. I know you're a
More than
busy
one.
man, so as we all are.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you again for having me. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
All
Bye.
right, bye.